Alright, Diablo 4 Rogues, it is now time to lock in with one of the best builds in the game, which is the Deathtrap Rogue build. But this one has no clunkiness. It's got 100% overpower, and it's got infinite resources, so you will not have the kind of clunkiness of sometimes your energy isn't up to par. I've basically fixed a lot of the issues. There's going to be a mythic version and a non-mythic version, and both of them are going to be absolutely going to be able to destroy all forms of content in the game. So let's go ahead and go over the skills, how they play, and then we'll go over the gear and kind of the differences between the mythic and the non-mythic version, and then we'll go into the Paragon board and everything. So for starters, our skill choices. So first off, we run dash. This activates an agility skill, which will then give us extra forms of damages on the Paragon board, but also facilitates kind of in between our Deathtrap. It gives us the ability to kind of dash. It makes the game feel really good. How the game feels better in the game state is if you activate dash and then you activate Deathtrap and then you activate dash. You cycle in between them to cancel the animation, and the game feels so much better. Try not to dash multiple times because there is kind of like a delay in between, and the game feels way better when you just dash and Deathtrap. And when you Deathtrap, it resets your dash anyways. So the game feels so much smoother if you cycle in between them, and that will also technically give you the maximum form of damage. And then we activate Dark Shroud just at the start. Now, the thing that makes this build so much smoother is I have opted to make it so concealment is not something that we actually need to use for the crit or the application of vulnerability. What I use concealment for, and I'll show you guys from the little intro clip, there is a lot of different boss mechanics. Belial has one mechanic where he will knock everyone down. If you pop concealment, you'll just be immune to it. So you can basically activate it after you're knocked down, and it gets around the mechanic of specifically certain mechanics for the, let's say, nightmare dungeon, where you go in and then like there's like a person you got to untie. That's where I use concealment for. I do not use it for the vulnerability or the crit or even the resource, which is in some builds as well, to facilitate getting the 275 for banished lords for the overpower. We actually will get it without using it, so you don't need to push this. We don't play imbue. The build is so much smoother without it. Then we can play Shadow Step to teleport through walls. It's usually utilized on nightmare dungeons. As long as there's a target, you can go through walls. It's just for speed runs. And then we run Caltrops to specifically apply the chill and get a ramp up of damage. Now Caltrops, I'll be honest, I don't really use it too much, but it is technically there. If you do want to go for push, you can run Caltrops. You can also run Poison Trap, alternatively, if you want to. But for the most part, I would say majority of players just want to go ahead and go speed and zoom, and you can do Pit 100 with the build. You can see in the gameplay I'm Paragon 174 here. We're higher now, but for the most part, I want to give you guys early gameplay so you guys can see the build works pretty early on. I'd say at Paragon 150 is where the build starts to feel really good. It already has really good damage. It's just that in the earlier stages, you may not have the cooldown or the resources to make it so it's like infinite that fast. And if you are still leveling, I'm just going to mention that I would really recommend you guys to use my Dance of Knives for leveling, as you cannot like play this at the start. It's like an ultimate build. It requires you to have all these little check marks, which is going to be able to facilitate getting that ultimate to be active every single time. And you can see my ultimate is on no cooldown here. And eventually, once you start getting good pieces of gear, you won't have any like kind of delay. In the very beginning, you may have some delays, like there might be like 2 or 3 seconds. It's just the way that the build works because it is an ultimate build. But what really helps out is getting preparation. So this is our specialization. It makes it so once we spend 75 energy, and we're going to have ideally over 275, we get a cooldown of 5 seconds. So we basically want to have this at least like 3 times. And once you get it like 3 times, it's pretty solid overall. And then also gives you the ability to reset your cooldowns. That's how we have infinite dashes and everything. And then another thing I want to mention is that concealment is currently, I don't know if this is bugged or glitched, but it has like an internal cooldown. Even if you reset it, that doesn't let you activate and proc the vulnerability and crit on it. Hopefully they'll make some sort of patch adjustment on this, but for right now, we don't care about that because we don't worry about that because we do not use this for specifically the crit. And I'll show you guys how you get 100% crit and, of course, overpower in the build. But as far as gear goes, we want to run Harlequin. We want maximum resource. Cooldown reduction isn't really relevant too much in the build later down the line, but ideally getting cooldown is still like a good stat, but max resource is the important thing. We want to reach 275. We run the brand new Scoundrel's Leather, so then we can use the traps to throw them out, and then it also gives us a damage multiplier. Then this is something important here. We want to run Trickster's Aspect. Trickster's Aspect makes it so our Deathtrap receives stun grenades benefits and then throws stun grenades. So that will also apply a stun, which gives us another bonus, but it also gives us the X multiplier on any of the stun grenades damage here. So we want that. And then we can get ranks to core skills. Stun grenade size actually works because it also includes the trap. And then we want to run Eyes in the Dark. Now this is really key. You want ranks to Aftermath. You need a total of 11 ranks to Aftermath, which it does mean two things. You can either get a non-GA and then you can get more masterworking, or you can get a GA and only masterwork at one time. It's up to you. What are your rolls? What's your luck? And yeah, you want just at the end of the day, get 11 ranks to Aftermath, which will give you infinite resource. You don't have to mess around with lucky hit chance to restore primary resource or the shadow like on kill. It's way easier just to get 11 ranks. That's the magic number. And then we want to run Beastfall Boots, ideally with maximum resource as the GA and masterwork. But if you happen to get ultimate cooldown and a maximum resource GA, you hit the jackpot. Then you could drop Harlequin and run an Error Perdition and get even more damage. But this is something that's like for the top 1%. So I don't even have any like incredibly godly pieces of gear in the gameplay as far as cooldown and maximum resource. I hit resource one time on my Harlequin, and then for the Beastfall Boots, I hit it 2 times. I didn't get triple on my max resource, but you can hit 275 fairly easy in the build. Obviously, if you go further, it's fine, because when you cast an ultimate, because we convert it to a core skill anyways with Deathtrap, we get the benefits of it. But it also gets the benefits of it being a not core skill, which is kind of weird, but it will proc the bonuses, and then that will give you all the energy consumed. The reason, by the way, you see my energy stay at maximum 1000% of the time is because it just restores all of it on activation. So it is technically going away and spending it, because that's how we proc the Starless Skies, as you can see by the buff bar, but it just doesn't ever go down. That's how we have infinite resources, by the way. It's just Aftermath. Then we run Apogeic Fury. We want to ideally get max GAs on the maximum life, and then in total, with your two-hander and one of your one-hander, or another one-hander if you don't want to play the Mythic version, you want the chance for Deathtrap to deal double damage at 100%. However you get it, whether it's masterworking 2 pieces once, or once a couple extra times on the two-hander, at the end of the day, that's what you want. You also want to temper and get the rolls to have Overpower, because Overpower gives you the highest number, and we have 100% Overpower in the build because we spend 275 resources every single time. In the gameplay, I have 306 energy. You can definitely go and push further. I just don't happen to have like perfect pieces of gear, but Benchwar's Talisman 275. After that, it's just extra icing on the cake. Doesn't really matter what GAs you have, just get a GA one. Galvanize is another big source of resource. The first part of the aspect does not matter, but the second part, where it says your maximum energy is increased, this really helps out. I personally don't happen to have, again, god pieces of gear, so I'm still running this in the gameplay. Eventually, though, you can swap off, run a stun grenade bonus, and you get another like 45x damage. But one thing that's key on the ring or the gloves, you want lucky hit chance to make enemies vulnerable, as we do not play concealment to apply the vulnerability. And then we run Starless Skies because it's great for crit, and it gives us core skills. We don't need resource cost reduction. It's just an overall solid ring. But this is definitely something where you can replace it, and it's really not that bad at all. Like, Starless Skies and Doombringer are not really that required. I would say Harlequin or Air of Perdition is kind of like the best. But again, this build does not need Mythics to get up and running. The thing that you need to make the build run is Scoundrel's Leather, Eyes in the Dark, Beastfall Boots. Banished Talisman, once you get the resources, once you get the master working, it does work much better, but you do not need it for the build to function. Doombringer gives you more HP, which gives you more overpower damage, and it gives you crazy survivability, because I don't even have armor cap. I don't even have my resistances cap. My resistances are like 30, and I'm just so tanky because of the bonus that you get on the skill tree, which I'll show you guys, which gives you barrier. We have like, I don't know, it's like near like 50k like effective health pool, and it gets refreshed every like second, every single time we activate our Deathtrap. And then we run Behemoth's Brawlers. This really helps out in the earlier stages, especially because it gives you ranks to your ultimate, which gives you extra CDR. And then on top of that, what makes it nice is you get another 30x damage. The difference is you can squeeze out 15x more damage, but you lose the 2 ranks. The 2 ranks are pretty good overall for damage as well. So I think Behemoth's Brawler is something that a lot of people are kind of sleeping on. It's quite nice. For the runes, I'm running Seer Vex for extra ranks to our ultimate, as well as our other skills. Then I'm running Zan Zal. This gives us more HP for more survivability, as well as more damage because Overpower. And then for our boss powers, we're running the Beast in Ice. We're running Hatred's Embrace. This is different here. This is where a lot of people don't run this. This will facilitate that crit that we would be losing out on with the concealment, which gives us 100%. This will give us 50 once we max it out, and it's going to be super godly. In the end game, you will have 100% crit because we have it from our dash will give us extra crit, our dark shroud will give us extra crit, and then when we activate a trap, it'll actually give us another like 12%. So in total, it's super easy to get 100% crit in this. This gives us 50 off the bat. And then Cinerates as well as Flesh Reapers, which pretty much is in most builds. Then we run Emeralds here for a weapon as well as armor. You can run the ultimate one as well, but the crit one gives you more numbers. But on the Paragon board, without even trying, you will get the bonus anyways. And then we just want to run Skulls to give us max armor. Max armor is more important than resistances in the game. And then now that we went over the build with the mythics, let's also go over the non-mythic one. So in the non-mythic one, any defensive aspect is totally fine, but in the helmet, you need to get cooldown reduction, max resource, armor, and you also want to temper armor. You also may want to get a armor roll on specifically your gloves to get that 1000 armor cap. That is very, very key here. For the extra aspect, you can run the aspect of surprise in the other ring slot, or you can just like move. I put behemoths here, but an aspect of surprise, but it doesn't matter. Basically, instead of Doombringer, you just run another chance for Deathtrap to deal double damage. If you already reach 100, you can run whatever. It doesn't matter. There's not like a very specific one for the build. But as far as the runes for the non-mythic one, I opted to put in Zanzek. This helps out with ultimate cooldown reduction, and I also swapped out the boss power for Urivars to really help out get that cooldown reduction. Ideally, you probably want to look at the non-mythic version of this build first, which I will include down below in the pin, as well as the link in the bio. So the reason why I'm recommending this one is because it'll make it much easier to get that cooldown reduction that you need and then transition into the mythic one once you start getting the master working, because sometimes I've noticed a lot of players in the earlier stages, you're down by like 5 or 6 seconds. If you run this and it's down to like 3 or 2 seconds, it feels a lot better for the build, because right now I have the ability to spam it infinitely, and these just really help out giving the extra ranks with like behemoths and like Urivars. But one thing that is quite nice with the non-mythic version, okay, and maybe you run to the situation where like the Starless Skies will not give you enough cooldown reduction. If you're running into problems with that, Starless Skies is probably an easy swap because you run on your ring the Deathtrap cooldown reduction. You'd also get that masterwork, and it'll make things much easier. But that's like the only difference between the mythic and the non-mythic variants. Now, as far as the skill tree, let's go ahead and make this a little bit bigger so you guys can actually see it. So, for starters, the first 2 points literally don't matter. Then we're going to max out Sturdy, and then we get 1 point into this because you need it to get to the next part of the board. If you do not have Harlequin, you may want to put 1 point into Shadow Step. If not, no worries. It's not like that big of a deal. Just lets you teleport through walls for making things faster. Then you can get the chill on the Caltrops. It's basically on every single build, but you can honestly drop this, it doesn't matter. Then we max out Weapon Mastery as well as Trick Attacks. If you want to run these other ones for extra sources of damage, hey, go for it, but it just makes the build require a little bit more steps. You have to pop the healing potion, you gotta run, like, evade through the enemy. Like, do you really want to do that? It's up to you. If you want to, hey, go for it. There is something that is not updated on the text. Dash did get a buff. It does actually give you additional critical strike chance. It doesn't say it here, but it does give you a bonus. That's why we put the points in. If you want to run Concealment, go for it. If you don't want to, it's fine. It's just specifically on Belial. There's also a few times where it's not bad on some of the objectives where, again, you have to free these people. You have to pick up this objective, and like sometimes when your character's picking up the item, you know, monster slaps you and resets the timer. It's annoying. Concealment kind of helps out with that. And then we also have Dark Shroud. You can run the one that gives you additional crit strike, or the other one if you already have enough crit. And then we get the extra damage over here. If you want to play Poison Trap for pushing, hey, thumbs up, go for it, man. I would say that if you want to drop anything, it could be dash. Like, you still want to use dash in between your attacks, or you could just run Shadow Step in between, which lets you teleport towards the target. But you do technically want this because it gives you non-physical damage for it. And if you also want to play the Shadow Imbue in terms of like legendary node on the Paragon board, that's actually not too bad as well because it just gives you more damage. Then we get Frigid Finesse. Our boss power, the Beast and Ice one, will activate it, but also the caltrops. Then we get the extra lucky hit chance to apply vulnerability. You can also run exploit if you want on the Paragon glyphs. That's another great thing. This will give us additional critical strike chance. We max out Deathtrap because it's a Deathtrap build, and we get the extra bear. This over here, second wind, is how we basically have immortality. It's pretty busted, and then we also run haste. This is another thing that I want to talk about really quickly, which is momentum. The momentum is really big because all of the extra bonuses to resource, plus another thing that's important is you want to pop the elixir of resourcefulness 2. That will give you additional resource, which makes the build so much easier to hit that 275 mark. Now you can definitely get there without momentum, you can get there without running the elixir of resourcefulness, but it is not easy. For most players, you're going to have to pop the potion, you're going to need to run a momentum. You can get more damage technically out of close quarters combat, but it's a lot more rough. It is much more strict on getting multiple GA pieces as well as getting triple masterwork crits, which, I'll be honest, it's annoying to get the Obdicite and refresh every single time, so majority of players will benefit from this. But if you do go close quarters, you need to swap up the build quite a bit. You need to roll damage too close. You also have to run pen shot, which is actually very annoying for the build. This is going to be what I consider pretty much the best build of the season for 99% of players. If you're not interested in playing and pushing for rank 1, don't go close quarters. It just takes a lot more time, and there's a clunkiness where you have to use a swap into skills. There's another thing that you can do with this build, which is cool. You can actually play exposure as well. However, the cooldown that it gives you on the trap skills is random. It's not 100% of the time, so in the earlier stages, if you want to try it, hey, you can go for it, but I'd rather just have 100% of the time. You can see in the gameplay, like, I never have any cooldown on mine, and that is because we just play momentum. In the earlier stages, I was trying out exposure, and it's not bad, because, like, it sometimes kind of works, but then there's other times where it just doesn't activate, and you're like, well, I got a long cooldown. So I just like the consistency of this. Plus, if you want that infinite overpower, this really helps out with the resources. All right, now let's go into the Paragon board. So for starters, we start off with fluidity. So we get the agility skill that gives us more damage. And then we move up to deadly ambush with ambush. So this is going to give us extra crit as well as giving that extra damage. And there's actually some cooldown reduction with traps here. So there's another source of cooldown reduction in the build. Then we go into no witness, which gives us ultimate skills, give everything more damage, but all that matters is ultimates here. Now you do not have to get any ultimate like on your rolls or you running the diamonds in your weapons. You don't need that. All of the ultimate here that's just on the Paragon board will give you enough. And then we run exploit weakness with explosive. This gives us extra damage with the stun grenades that we want to actually utilize. And then we are running the node exploit weakness, which will give us some extra damage. And then we run dance macabre with versatility. This gives us extra damage after we dash. So we dash, throw down Deathtrap, dash, throw down Deathtrap. It has a really good animation cancel already built into it. Try not to run dash 2 times or use the skill twice. You can technically hold down Deathtrap and then just spam, like, so you push one button to hold it down and then use the other button to spam on dash. That's another way to play it, but I like rotating in between. It makes the build feel really good because you can animation cancel it. And then this just gives you bonuses to specifically non-basic and non-core. I know it counts as core, but the way the game works is it just lets you get both. So it's a core skill that's also a non-core skill. As the way the game works, man. And there's also someone that mentioned that some of the damage calculations on the explosive, because this is all with stun grenades, right? Now, since it counts as stun grenades, we get all of the bonuses with the stun grenades. So as far as it goes, there could be some sort of bug with this, but I'll update you guys if anything changes with the build. But that is going to be one of the top tier builds this season. This is also the build that I've been playing on the live stream since a lot of you guys came in and were like, yo, where's the build guide for it? And here it is for you guys finally. Yeah, very, very good build. You can do 100 plus with the build, obviously as you progress, but like I'm para 175 now and I still need to get my master working up. Like from this gameplay, I've gotten my character further, but you could still play this as like an end game build. You don't need everything completely masterworked. I would say at least 8 out of 12 is where the build starts to feel really good with cooldown reduction. But if you're running into issues with that, just try to check and get your master working up. Sometimes you just got to get the master working in order for the build to feel really good. But if there's any updates to this build as well as future builds, and this is your first time here and you want to see an update to it, subscribe to the bell and you'll definitely see more. But thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed the video, drop a like on it, and the build for both builds, for the Mythic and the non-Mythic, will be in the pin. But take care, and I'll see you Diablo players in the next video. But have fun with the build.